All right, and 3, 2, 1, we are live. Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to this week's module. This week we're going to focus on affective development and learning in the affective domain. All right, so there are many ways to define and explore affects in education. We've talked about it a little bit briefly in previous lectures, but now we're going to really dive in. This week, we're going to be looking at two specific approaches that have practical applications for your classroom. Specifically, you're going to be provided with resources that guide your discovery of teaching implications for affective learning. Let's get started. The first approach for affective development, and one of my personal favorites, is from Benjamin Bloom. Besides being distractingly handsome, as you can see on the slide, he is the University of Chicago educational psychologist who many educators associate with cognitive domains of learning. So recall, analyze, speculate, different levels of cognitive involvement at which you want to, students to engage with your tasks. But Bloom also had two other domains of learning. One is psychomotor and the other is affective. Okay, so this week, we're going to look at the affective domain. Now, as I introduced you in the previous weeks, affect matters to learning while students may be able to develop content knowledge in your discipline, helping them to see for lack of a better word, the beauty and utility of your discipline means that you must also intentionally develop their learning in the affective domain. Intentionally be the key word. Furthermore, research has demonstrated that a slightly positive mood doesn't just make you feel better, but it also induces a different kind of thinking altogether. And this is characterized by a tendency towards greater creativity and flexibility in problem solving, as well as more efficiently and thoroughness in your decision-making process. So the graphic you can see there on the left of the slide depicts Bloom's 5 levels of affective development. Level 1, you can see up at the top, is actually the lowest level of affective development. So at 5 at the bottom is the highest level. So 1 is the lowest of affective engagement, and in this, the learner is passive. So they're attending to the information. Okay, and that's about it. If you remember last week's module on the cognitive thinking and multi-stage, multi-score theory of memory, they're attending. So it's in their working memory, but there's no additional connection that they're making to the content other than receiving it and attending to it. In one ear, out the other. So in terms of effective development, there's no learning in this space. Level 2, as we move on, the learner reacts to some type of task, stimulus input from the environment, and they're actively participating in the learning process. So let me think of an example. This might be if you provide a passage from the Great Gatsby or something, and you ask your students to identify the main idea contained in the passage. At level 2, they'll be actively involved in this process, unlike level 1. They can likely successfully complete the task at level 2, but there's little affective connection to the task, to the attached to the task, or even an appreciation for Scott Fitzgerald's literary style. Now, in level 3, the learner starts to attach some value to a phenomenon or to the object of the study. An example of this, from a science perspective at least, is when we use anchoring phenomena as a way to help students understand the value and the utility of scientific knowledge. Such as, it could be something as simple as why, when you have cereal, why are the Cheerios that are sitting in the milk, you're not doing anything to it, but they're constantly moving towards the edge of the bowl and then clumping together over time. So, okay, what's happening at the molecular level is that there is this consistent phenomenon. So that's sort of where level 3 is at as far as effective learning goes. So now at level 4, the learner is putting together these different values and ideas they're relating to, and they're elaborating on it, on what they've learned, and they've started to build on this content in their own personal value system. For example, I like to think about civics and personally how the Uyghur genocide in Xinjiang, China, can serve as a backdrop for exploring contemporary issues in world affairs. Now, allowing students to evaluate the role and impact on the us in foreign policy. Okay. I also hope that, as we move on from levels 1 to 5, you can think of your own examples, in your content area, and how you might intentionally not only target students, their cognitive abilities, but their affective development as well. The second approach that we'll look at this week in trying to build on students' affective development is that of the social emotional learning. Now, social emotional learning is the process through which children, adolescents, and adults understand and manage their emotions. They're also able to set and achieve positive goals. They learn how to feel, show empathy for others. They establish and maintain positive relationships while also making responsible decisions that might just sound like something that's beyond the domain of your discipline. However, as an educator, while you have content area expertise, you serve your students and want to develop them in a way that develops the whole child, not just their academic intellectual abilities, right? In education research spaces, a lot of attention has been paid to social emotional learning as an approach for preventing or mitigating at-risk behaviors by youth that they get involved in, especially because of the pandemic. This has become, this has come, social emotional learning has become more to the forefront. However, it's still appropriate for your classroom as a way to develop affect and appreciation, not only for the content, but for each other, as learners in this space together. Because the goal of social emotional learning is to promote personal and social competence. As you see through the wheel that on the left there, we have 5 different areas of social emotional learning that you can intentionally carve out time to develop in your students while they're engaging in content in your discipline area. Whether, it's helping make them, helping them make constructive and respectable choices about their social interactions and their collaborative, their collaborations rather, in their group work, whether they're evaluating their own behaviors, okay, whether they're becoming aware of the entire classroom community socially. And how many times have you wondered to yourself, for a student to like read the room, are they doing that properly? So social emotional learning and the approaches that we use to develop social emotional learning in students helps them learn how to better read the room, to be a better colleague, and to be a better community member, and to further engage in your content area in a way that draws their affect. So this is a short presentation. I promised you they would get shorter, and I did deliver. For this week, your activities are to work with your group members on the case study of Sandra, where you will use information from Bloom's affective development domain and social emotional learning and try to address the dilemma that she's having. Okay. You'll also continue your real reading prompts. And, just a note that the clinical interview part 1 is due this week. Thank you very much. I've met almost all of you at this point, and I have really enjoyed interacting with you guys and getting to learn about your backgrounds. So if you have any questions, I'm here for you. Just shoot me an email anytime. All right. Have a great one.